want to start today with a quick story that seems unrelated. Stay with me. A few years ago, I watched a guy spend a ridiculous amount of money upgrading his car. New exhaust, new rims, new paint, even a spoiler that absolutely did not make the car faster. But every time he turned the key, the engine struggled. Rough starts, weak acceleration, random stalling. So finally someone asked him, "Hey, did you ever fix the fuel system?" He looked genuinely confused because in his mind, the fuel system wasn't exciting. It wasn't visible. It wasn't the fun part. And that's where today starts. Welcome back to the Mail System series, where we stop treating internal symptoms and start rebuilding the mail systems. I'm your host, Barbosa, your friendly neighborhood system diagnoser. Episode 1 showed you the chain reaction, how gut issues quietly lead to lymph backups, which affect blood flow, which disrupt nerves, which throw hormones off balance, which finally show up as performance problems. Today, we go to the beginning of the dungeon, the gut, not the stomach, not I ate spicy food and now I regret my life choices. The gut system, the production line, the fuel refinery, the place where raw materials either get turned into usable energy or quietly sabotage everything downstream. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If your gut isn't breaking food down properly, you're not absorbing nutrients. If you're not absorbing nutrients, your hormones don't stabilize. If hormones don't stabilize, your energy drops, inflammation rises, recovery slows, and your body starts compensating instead of performing. And here's where men get tripped up. You can train hard, you can eat clean, you can be disciplined, you can even look fit and still have a gut that's underperforming. Because discipline doesn't override dysfunction. It just hides it longer. The gut doesn't care how motivated you are. It cares whether it can do its job. And when it can't, every other system pays the price quietly until something loud finally breaks. In this episode, we're going to break down how the gut is supposed to work, what actually causes it to slow down, how gut dysfunction quietly sets the stage for ED long before symptoms appear, and why fixing the system changes everything else without forcing outcomes. This is the foundation level of the dungeon. Skip it, and every boss fight after this feels impossible. Fix it, and the rest of the systems finally have something to work with. Let's get into it. Let's clear something up immediately. The gut is not a passive tube where food politely passes through and then leaves. That would be convenient and wildly incorrect. The gut is an active decision-making system. Every time you eat, your body asks one question: can I actually use this? Because food doesn't become energy automatically. It has to be broken down, sorted, absorbed, and routed correctly. That entire process happens here. The gut decides whether nutrients become fuel or waste. It decides whether inflammation stays low or quietly ramps up. It decides whether your body builds hormones efficiently or starts rationing them like a survival bunker. Think of the gut like a logistics hub. Raw materials come in, they're inspected, broken down, packaged, then shipped to where they're needed. If that hub slows down, everything downstream runs on partial power. And here's the part nobody explains to men. Your gut directly affects your testosterone production, your estrogen clearance, your insulin sensitivity, your cortisol regulation, your nitric oxide availability, your inflammation levels, your energy output, your recovery speed. Yes, all of that. So when men ask, how does digestion affect erections? The real answer is it affects everything that makes erections possible, because erections aren't created in isolation. They're built on blood quality, nerve clarity, hormonal balance, and energy availability. And every one of those depends on whether the gut is doing its job. When the gut works properly, nutrients get absorbed efficiently, inflammation stays low, blood stays clean, and hormones stay responsive. When it doesn't, the body starts improvising, and the body is very good at improvising, just not forever. Now let's talk about how this system quietly falls apart. Because gut failure doesn't show up as a dramatic explosion. It shows up as mild annoyances you learn to live with. Bloating, gas, inconsistent stools, heartburn, food sensitivities that weren't there before, fatigue after meals, brain fog, stubborn weight. These are not random inconveniences. They are warning signs. What's usually happening is this: Food is not being fully broken down. Enzymes are insufficient. Gut lining becomes irritated. Inflammation increases, absorption drops, so nutrients that should be entering the bloodstream never make it. The body notices this immediately, and instead of panicking, it compensates. It slows non-essential systems. It redirects energy to survival. It increases stress hormones to make up the difference. This is where men get confused because they think, I'm eating enough protein, I'm taking supplements, I'm doing everything right. But if absorption is compromised, none of that matters. It's like pouring premium fuel into a tank with a clogged fuel filter. The fuel exists, the engine never gets it. And here's the quiet damage this causes over time. Low nutrient absorption means hormone production becomes inefficient. Inflammation interferes with blood vessel flexibility. Stress hormones block sexual signaling. Insulin resistance increases fat storage. Energy output becomes inconsistent. And eventually, the reproductive control center starts receiving distorted signals. Not because it's broken, because it's being fed bad information. By the time ED shows up, the gut has usually been underperforming for years, which is why pills feel like they work sometimes, and then don't. They don't fix absorption. They don't reduce inflammation. They don't restore hormone production. They just force output from a system that's already compensating. In the next sections, we're going to break down how gut dysfunction directly feeds into the lymphatic system, why waste buildup makes blood thicker and slower, and how fixing the gut first changes everything else without force. Because you don't win the dungeon by skipping the first room, you clear it properly. Or every fight after that is harder than it needs to be. Now here's where things start stacking up, because when the gut underperforms, the body doesn't just shrug and move on. It has to put the mess somewhere. Enter the lymphatic system. Most men have never heard of it, which is impressive because it's the system that handles everything your blood can't. Think of blood as the delivery service. Lymph is the cleanup crew. When digestion works properly, waste is minimal, toxins are neutralized, and the lymphatic system stays ahead of the workload. But when digestion breaks down, undigested particles slip through, inflammatory compounds rise, metabolic waste increases, immune byproducts pile up, and all of that gets dumped into the lymphatic system quietly. There's no alarm, no sharp pain, no dramatic failure, just gradual backup. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the heart. It relies on movement, pressure changes, and flow. So when it gets overloaded, it slows down. Waste stays longer than it should. Inflammation lingers, fluid retention increases, blood quality subtly declines, and here's the key point: blood and lymph are neighbors. When lymph backs up, blood becomes thicker, flow becomes less efficient, pressure becomes harder to regulate. This isn't noticeable at first. You just feel heavier, sluggish, less responsive, and once again, the body compensates because that's what it does best. Now let's talk about why this matters, because erections don't happen because you want them to. They happen because blood can move fast, clean, and expand on demand. That requires three things: clean blood, flexible vessels, clear pressure signals. Lymphatic backup interferes with all three. When waste lingers in the system, blood quality drops. When inflammation rises, blood vessels lose elasticity. When vessels stiffen, pressure becomes inconsistent. So instead of smooth expansion, you get hesitation, weakness, inconsistency. This is why men describe it as sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Nothing is random here. The system is responding to conditions, and when conditions aren't ideal, the reproductive control center pulls back, not because it's broken, because it's smart. If blood can't move cleanly, the body doesn't commit resources to performance. It prioritizes survival, which brings us back to the pill problem. Pills don't clean the lymph. They don't reduce waste buildup. They don't restore vessel flexibility. They force pressure into a system that's already stiff and congested, which works briefly until it doesn't. Fix the gut and lymphatic load decreases. Fix lymph flow and blood quality improves. Improve blood quality and pressure stabilizes. And suddenly, the system doesn't need to be forced anymore. In the next sections, we're going to connect this directly to nerves and hormones and show why stress and inflammation sabotage signaling long before performance drops. Because by the time ED shows up, the system has been fighting uphill for a long time. And this dungeon is only half cleared. Now let's talk about nerves. because this is where a lot of men get blindsided. Arousal does not start in the body. It starts in the nervous system, before blood moves, before pressure builds, before anything physical happens. A signal fires. If that signal is delayed, distorted, or weakened, everything downstream becomes unreliable. And here's the part nobody connects. Inflammation doesn't just make you sore, it interferes with signaling. When the gut is inflamed and the lymphatic system is backed up, that inflammatory environment spreads. Nerves do not like operating in a hostile environment. Signals slow down, accuracy drops, timing gets messy. This is where men start noticing things like delayed response, reduced sensitivity, inconsistent arousal, difficulty maintaining focus in the moment, and they assume it's mental. It's not. The wiring is intact, the signal quality is not. Think of it like interference on a radio channel. The music still exists. You just can't hear it clearly, and the body once again compensates, it pushes harder, it increases stress hormones, it tries to brute force a clean signal through noise, which works briefly until it doesn't. This is why forcing arousal never leads to consistency. You don't fix signal interference by yelling louder, you reduce the interference. Now we arrive at hormones, specifically the balance between testosterone and cortisol, because these two do not coexist peacefully. When inflammation is low, nutrients are absorbed, and systems are aligned, testosterone does its job. Drive is stable. Energy is reliable. Recovery works. But when the gut is underperforming and the lymphatic system is overloaded, the body senses stress, and stress changes priorities. Cortisol rises to keep you functional. Testosterone gets deprioritized, not eliminated, deprioritized. Because from a survival standpoint, reproduction is optional. This is where men feel lower drive, lower motivation, lower confidence, lower tolerance for effort, and they assume testosterone just dropped. It didn't drop randomly. It was sidelined. Hormones respond to environment, not willpower. You cannot mindset your way out of biochemical stress. You have to remove the stressor, which brings everything full circle. Gut dysfunction increases inflammation. Inflammation burdens lymphatic flow. Lymphatic backup degrades blood quality. Poor blood quality stresses nerves. Stressed nerves elevate cortisol. Elevated cortisol suppresses testosterone. And the reproductive control center reads all of it and says, not now, not broken, not defective, just responding. In the final sections, we're going to tie this together and show why restoring the gut system first changes nerves, hormones, and performance without chasing symptoms. Because once you understand the system, the solution stops being mysterious, and the dungeon finally starts making sense. At this point, the pattern should be clear. Nothing we've talked about exists in isolation. The gut isn't one system. It's the upstream controller. When the gut starts working properly again, a lot of things stop needing to be forced. Nutrients actually get absorbed, inflammation starts dropping, the lymphatic system gets ahead of waste instead of drowning in it, blood quality improves, vessels relax instead of resisting, nerve signals travel cleanly, hormones stabilize without intervention, and none of this happens dramatically. There's no explosion, no cinematic montage, no sudden lightning bolt of masculinity. Things just start working quietly, energy becomes more consistent, recovery improves, focus sharpens, drive returns naturally instead of needing motivation, and eventually the reproductive control center stops hesitating, not because you demanded it, because the conditions finally make sense. This is the part men underestimate. They think the gut is about digestion. It's not, it's about signal quality. The gut determines whether the body feels safe enough to allocate resources to performance. When resources are scarce, performance gets cut. When resources are abundant and clean, performance resumes, no negotiation required. So let's bring this home. ED doesn't begin in the moment. It begins years earlier when the gut slowly falls out of rhythm and the body adapts to dysfunction instead of fixing it. By the time symptoms appear, the system has been compensating for a long time. That's why quick fixes feel tempting. They promise to skip the dungeon and jump straight to the boss fight, and sometimes they even work briefly. But skipping the foundation always comes with a cost. When you restore the gut, you're not chasing erections. You're restoring the environment that makes erections automatic. When you reduce inflammation, clean up lymphatic flow, improve absorption, and stabilize hormones, the system doesn't need reminders. It remembers what to do. This is what root cause actually means, not forcing outcomes, not silencing alarms, not borrowing performance from tomorrow, just fixing what stopped working in the first place. And that's where we'll leave episode 2. The gut is the foundation. Clear it properly, and the rest of the dungeon becomes manageable. In the next episode, we're moving deeper into the cleanup crew itself, the lymphatic system, the part of the body that decides whether waste clears or quietly holds you back. And trust me, once you understand that system, a lot of things you thought were normal will stop looking normal at all. We'll pick it up there. All right, dungeon cleared. No boss fight today. This was a setup level. You picked up a few achievements. You figured out which system actually matters. You stopped blaming the wrong thing. And you unlocked at least one, oh, that actually explains a lot moment. Team survived. I'll take the carry this round. You did the thinking. You keep the XP. That's a clean run. Go sit with what we covered. Let it marinate a bit. I'm going to pretend I didn't just talk about digestion for 20 minutes and go combine some herbs in a way I'm pretty sure the game developers of Resident Evil did not originally intend. Maybe if this episode sparked a thought, a question, or a, wait, I've definitely been ignoring that moment, drop it in the comments. I actually want to see what patterns show up. See you in the next dungeon.